The first group that's going to report went to Henderson, Texas. And it was the first of hopefully many years of working with a group called Gospel Sharing Ministries. If you've ever met or listened to Jim Smith, he usually speaks at our workshop. And he kind of spearheads Gospel Sharing Ministries. They're a campaign group, and they do one thing, and they do it well. And they have a system. They're very organized. And so it was encouraging to work with them. But 3 people that were on that campaign are going to share their experiences, I hope both good and bad. I told them to be candid about what they felt about their experience. So the first one will be Randall Dickey, and then Wilson, and then Joshua.
It was my first door knocking experience, my first evangelism experience when I went to Henderson. And I appreciate the work and the hard work that goes into it. There is a lot of work to a door knocking campaign. You don't just go out there and just start knocking doors. They had a method, and that was to break down the city by little grids, and you go into these areas and you knock on each door. And you have a 45-minute window, I would say, to start a Bible study, either to continue the Bible study or to get them into the water. And that's where my experience in it kind of alters. I am more of a let's keep people instead of gaining people, because I feel if we keep people in the church, we will gain people then. But if we gain people and not worry about keeping them, it's just a revolving door. And I don't want God's church to be a revolving door of people. I want him to keep them in here. I want things to stay. I want things to be solid foundation. So the experience for me was good, but it was also kind of, as we say, a mixed bag. It was good and bad. I appreciated all the hard work. I loved everything about it. It's just, I wanted more, how should I say, discipling in the experience instead of just talking to them. I wanted more heart, more involvement with the people instead of just, telling salvation stories, sharing that. It was like I wanted more out of it. But it was something that I can say that it was a great foundation. It was a great something to start from that can be definitely adapted to today. The program was great. It just needs to be adapted to modern society, and because I don't want to get rid of the program or say it's not useful or anything. It is very useful. It just needs to be adapted. Wilson.
Now, it was a very nice, well put together program. But the funny thing is, on the first day, it was me, Josh, and the lady, one of our team leaders, Anita. We're heading out after we've been taught how to do this. So we're heading out, and we're reading the map while driving. So apparently Josh cannot drive and look at the map. So he was driving extra slow, and the police officer pulled up behind us. So she followed us for about 3 blocks, and we finally parked the car, and she put the sirens on. So I was like, I've never been arrested for doing the Lord's work, but that's the first time for everything. So she walks over to the car, she goes, "Are you lost?" And Josh was like, I should have asked her a different question, like, I'm not lost, but are you? But he didn't, thank God. So he goes, we're not from around here, but we're here to do the Lord's work, but she's from around here, pointing to Anita in the back, and Anita goes, I'm not from around here. And I'm like, all right, we're going to jail tonight. But that being put aside, it was an excellent program. And it was like, at one point I was like, I felt like it wasn't personal. Like it was too, like, we have 45 minutes to talk to you and dunk you and then next person. And I was like, that's not how we do it. But then I met another person named Mike. Mike Moore is Paul in itself. Because Mike adapted the program to his lifestyle. Like, Mike has like 50 questions he asks you before he even asks you about the gospel. And he's going to ask you, do you need food, milk, clothing, whatever your need is, he's going to get it and then have a program with you. And I thought that was much better than what they were doing before. But all in all, and the leader is Jim. Jim is awesome. Jim has a heart for the Lord, because at one point we knocked on 15 doors. Nobody answered. And at one point, Jim was knocking on this lady's door, and she peeked through the thing, and he's still knocking. I'm sure she saw her. He's still knocking. She turned the volume on the TV all the way up, and Jim is still knocking. Like, he wouldn't quit. We left. We knocked on 15 doors. Nobody answered. We walked all the way down the other side of the street, and we ended up meeting a nice lady named April, and April was going through some tough times. And Jim was able to set up a study with April. And I was like, and Jim turned around and goes, that's how you do it. It doesn't matter if it's 20 no answer, you still keep going till you get that one answer. And I was like, that's pretty awesome, because usually when you're like, nope, okay, nope, no, all right, I'm good. I did my job. But it's not like that. And certain people, you have to adapt to certain ways. And like Miranda was saying, it's a great program. I thought it was a good program. Like, the beginning of the program is excellent, but if you add it with what CL is teaching, you might have a 100% program that cannot lose. And that's what I was going to sit down with CL and talk about, because they really do have a great conversation starter for a Bible study. And I thought that was awesome. And I would talk to CL about it so we could start the actual program, because it is a nice program to start. And I was thinking, like, our first campaign was in Oklahoma, how we had the gospel sharing ministry teach us how to actually knock on doors. It might actually have more success. So that's something to think about. Josh?
Good morning. As he said, yeah, I did get pulled over the first afternoon. So what happened when she started walking up to the car, grabbed the Bible, and I put it up on the dash real slow, you know. That way there was no feeling threatening, you know. We might get off the hook, you know, but we did. It was fine. So what we basically did is they gave us these little Bibles, and on the front it has a question. It says, if the Lord were to come right now, would you know, nothing doubting, that you would get to go home with him? And that was our conversation starter after we asked them, do you have anything we can do for you, food, clothing? Can we pray with you about anything? Then we would get into that. And they'd either say yes or no, of course, or I don't know. If they said yes, we would say, oh, well, you're obviously a Christian. And they said, yeah. So we'd say, okay, tell us how you came to be a Christian. They'd tell us their story, and then we'd ask them if we could tell them ours, and that's when we would get into this. And during all that, I did not have a lot of success the first 3 days, just because of the area I think I was in each time. Most people were not home. In the morning, of course, people go to work, but even the people that were there, they were really, really tied down to where they were going to church. And you would get them in groups where you were at in the neighborhood. It was kind of interesting. But the last day, the fourth day, I only talked to 2 people, which is really good, because that means you set up 2 Bible studies. And so in the morning, we went to this Most Wanted. This is who the church wanted us to go to and see, a specific person. This man had cancer, and they had it removed, but not before it spread everywhere else. So he doesn't have much time left. And he was telling us his story. This is when he realized he was saved, he said, during this time. And he allowed us to share the gospel with him. So we sat in his front porch under the pine tree, about 3 of us, and I didn't get to share it with him. I shared a little bit, but there was a dog there. And the dog wanted to get all up in the laps, you know, and licking the Bibles and everything, so I decided, well, the silent partner's got to take care of this. So I played fetch with this pit bull, and I only got bit once, but it was okay. And then in the afternoon is when I conducted the Bible study myself with a different lady. And we were going through it. We made it all the way through, and you saw the light come in her eyes, and it was the best thing ever. She realized what she needed to do. But the problem was, she was living with her mom. She's a single mom. She had 2 kids, living with her mom rent-free for right now. And her family is diehard Catholic. So when she talked to her mom about it, she wanted to come up to the church building later that night. Her mom basically said, if you go and be baptized and all that, you will be kicked out of the house. So that's a situation that Myra's going to have to work through, and the church is going to try to work with her, I think, and hopefully it'll work out. But in all, it was a way different thing than I was expecting. It was a completely different method that I've never heard of, never used. I never thought door knocking would work in the slightest, but we planted a lot of seeds, and that was basically what it was about. So, thank you.
Speedy Hart and I had the privilege of going with Jason Williams and his wife Patrice, and Nathaniel Thompson and his wife Bertie, and Spencer Carroll to Rockledge, Florida. They've supported me for a long time. An alumnus of the school, Carrie Berkey, who graduated in 1991, has been there about the last 25 years. And so they're growing old, but they're looking for ways to grow and reach out. And they asked us to come to be a part of that. We took a broader-based approach, perhaps, than the group in Henderson, and so I'll let our guys tell you about their experience. They were also looking at these people as interns for youth interns, so they were kind of on display and on the hot seat. But let me tell you, Speedy and I were incredibly proud of our students. They did a fantastic job. So, Jason?
Good morning, everyone. So going to Florida was a great opportunity for me. I was very glad when it was presented because I got a chance to get out of Texas and see something different. So it was pretty great. And then also, I think the first part about the whole campaign thing was just getting to know the brethren. I got to know Spencer. He's been at the school. I've been at the school for almost a year now, and I never really knew him. I've seen him, and we've kind of talked in passing, but it was excellent getting to know my brother, and then also getting the chance to spend some more time with Charles and Speedy. I got to know some nicknames for Charles, but it was just a great time to go there. The church, they were mainly focused on, at least what they gave us initially, was that they wanted to focus on trying to build their youth group because over the last few years, they've lost a few of them just from them graduating and things like that. So their youth group, the teenage, really 7th grade and up, was pretty diminished. There was only about 6 youth that come on a regular basis. So we taught them Sunday, me, Nathan, and Spencer, and it was a little weird because it was like 3 teachers up teaching 3 students, and then some came in, trickled in after we were there for a while, but they were very glad that we were there, and we got to really connect with them because it was a smaller group, and feel like they really opened their hearts to us. Going out into the neighborhoods day-to-day knocking doors was also a great experience. Even though it's a different state and some of the foliage and the water and all that stuff is different, it was interesting to see that people are the same everywhere you go. And the people there need Jesus just as much as they need Jesus here. So it was a little disappointing at times because, like was already been said for the previous group, a lot of people weren't home. And then people that were home, many of them weren't interested at all. But we had success with several people just opening their doors and opening their hearts, and we got to pray with many of them. Many of them just needing someone to care and listen to what they had to say. And I think that was the best part of just knowing, even though we didn't have much of a chance to open up the word with them, and it was more just trying to get them. We gave them information about the church and things, and it was mostly about just trying to get them to come. So I wish we had a little more involvement to be able to actually open the word with them and share that. But just to be able to pray with people, we had several to tell us that they're just glad to see that young people are out and about actually spreading the word about Jesus, because in this day and time, that's not often seen anymore, and this society wants to suppress us. And so that was an encouragement to them. So overall, just a great experience. I loved it, and I can't wait to get out there and do that same thing here. So, Nathan?
So this time last year, I started my job as a car salesman, and going out into the streets in Florida was kind of like a reminder of what that felt like. I definitely got the nervous butterflies in my stomach as we started walking, and I was thinking, okay, I got to figure out how to overcome the stigma, right? Just like a car salesman, you have to overcome the stigma of being a car salesman. I have to overcome the stigma of being out here with a pamphlet that says Rockledge Church of Christ. That experience was good. I've never gone door knocking before, and seeing how many people reacted negatively, and also all the people that reacted in a positive way, was a good insight into the community that we live in. As Jason was saying, people are the same, whether in Texas or Missouri or Florida. The people you encounter are going to have hurt in their life. They're going to have things they're struggling with, and more often than not, you have to find ways to get past that. Two of my highlights were actually an older lady, middle-aged actually, named Rose, who invited us into her house, and we talked with her for a little bit and prayed with her concerning her needs. And she sounded interested in visiting the church and getting to meet the church. And also a young man by the name of Adam, who was an offshore fisherman. And he was actually really hospitable. At first, I thought, this guy's going to be kind of like, oh, no, I'm busy. But after engaging with him and listening to him, and once he was like, I'm an offshore fisherman, I was like, do you ever catch really freaky-looking fishes? Or fish, and fishes? And he's like, oh, yeah, man, you wouldn't believe the things we pull up that we have to take to researchers that work on the docks and studying them. So that was kind of like a point of engagement that I began developing a conversation with him. And in a matter of minutes, we were inside his house. He's pouring us a glass of water and a glass of iced tea, and we're talking even more. And he sounded really, he kind of started at first saying, I'm good, and then towards the end he was like, I might visit that church. So it was kind of encouraging to see that. And he also was like, keep the cups. We get these all the time. So we got some souvenir cups out of it that are now at the church. But all in all, I would say it was really good just seeing what it's like to just go out into the community and knock on doors and seeing how people react to that. And also it was really good spending time with brethren, as Jason was saying. It was awesome getting to know Jason and Patrice better and getting to know Spencer Carroll better. And it was also great to get to know the Rockledge Church of Christ and meet the youth. You can tell they have a desire for evangelism, and it was encouraging seeing them taking a step towards that by just bringing Charles in and Speedy and us and just listening and wanting to go out. So all in all, I would say it was a great experience for me. And now it's Spencer's turn.
Kind of like with fishing, when you're door knocking, you never know what's on the other end of that line. You never know what you're going to find behind that door. I was partnered with Charles Spear, and there are some characters out there. We had an elderly lady. She said she was 97 years old, and she had studied every religion she could get her hands on. And so as Charles is asking her questions and asking her about, what does she think about the afterlife, and what does she think about eternity, and what does she think about Christ and different things, she had an answer. But man, it was like taking pieces from different jigsaw puzzles and trying to put them together. You really never know what they're going to respond to you, and you got to be ready, and you got to be on your feet. And I think the walking is not what exhausts you from door knocking. It's the mental drain. It's like when you stand up and you teach. You're constantly thinking about the questions your students may ask and the responses they may give and how you're going to respond, and it's a lot. But also something I've noticed both last year working at campaign and this year is you seem to always have something to say because you have studied. You do know. I think a lot of times we fear going out in public like that because we fear we're not going to have the answer. We fear we're not going to know what to say. And there were times I told Charles, man, how do you come up with these questions? Like, you just know what to ask after they respond. He's like, it comes. And it does. So door knocking, I think we all kind of agreed, all 6 of us that have spoken, me now, it works. It does something. It gets the word out there. But it does leave a disconnect in kind of keeping them. It does leave a disconnect in that personal touch that's needed. And I will say one thing that did bother me is there weren't more from the actual congregation there to be out there with us. Because it is hard, because I'm leaving. I'm here for 3 or 4 days, and I'm going to meet these people, and I'm going to talk to these people, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that Spencer guy, I enjoy talking to him. I'm going to go back and see what's, what he's up to. But then I'm not there. And so it does help, and that's one thing we really need to do if we are going to keep door knocking and we are going to be going out because we are on spring break, we do have the time. We need to encourage the brethren to take that time as well, to be out there with us. Other than door knocking, we did get to spend time with the actual congregation. They are great people. Bertie and Nathaniel stayed with a couple named Zach and Levon. And we were over there the first night working on our lesson. We just start talking. So Levon and I get our Facebooks out, and we're comparing who we know. And we have mutual friends. And then she starts asking me, well, you were at Tulsa this summer. Do you happen to know Sydney May? I was like, yeah, I know Sydney May. She's like, she's dating my brother. I was like, what? And so she responded with such a great phrase. She said, I love the Church of Christ because we're all so connected. And it's so true. Going to Florida, that's not really my family. That's not the church I grew up with. But there was an automatic connection. So we'll tell you, if you have already done your campaigns and you're done and you're checked out, don't check out. Do another one. I didn't have to go on this one. I had my requirement. I had everything set up. I didn't have to go, but I'm glad I did. It's a huge part. As far as the work going on with the youth there, be in prayer for them. Be in prayer for a lot of those smaller congregations because they do want to grow and they do want to change. Not, away from the word, but they want to change to where they're open and they're welcoming and they're getting people in. But it's hard sometimes. So those little congregations that you know, the ones that you worked with, the ones that your friends worked with, be in prayer for them.